to These Guys Got Next, our NBA basketball podcast where we dissect the NBA. My name's Elijah Fa'afiu. I am joined by Ravindu Pathirana. Ravi, how are you going today? How's everything on your end?
Yeah, enjoying, mate. Enjoying a Thursday. Lovely weather here over in Sydney. Definitely looking forward to the summer, and what's better to start off with a bit of preseason action going on lately. How about you?
Yeah, same. And I've been tuned into the preseason. As always, love to overreact to some of the things that we see in preseason and hoping it carries on to the regular season. But today we're going to continue our preview of the NBA season. We've dissected the Eastern and Western conferences. Today we're going to look at some of our picks for this year's NBA individual honors. So the MVP award, the Rookie of the Year award, Most Improved, so on and so forth. We'll also look at who we think is going to be this season's All-Stars and All-NBA contenders. So without further ado, let's just dive right in, Rav. The most important individual award in the NBA, the MVP, Most Valuable Player. Who is your pick to win
Uh,
the MVP award?
my pick's going to be a very common pick, like a lot of other people. I'm going to have to say Luka Doncic, especially with the addition of Clay. I think it's just going to open up the offensive game for him like massively. With Clay out on the wing and being a 3-and-D shooter, it's just going to take a little bit of pressure off Luka when he comes to score the ball. And again, I reckon he's probably going to average his scoring numbers will go down, but I reckon with them being able to push to the finals. But last season he averaged 33.9 points, 9.2 rebounds, and 9.8 assists. And he had a pretty low 3-point percentage, I guess, for someone like Luka's caliber. But I'm expecting him to go 37 and 11 as his points, some rebounds and assists, and shooting over 40% from three, just with that addition of Clay. Just like I said, it just allows him to be more efficient.
Yeah, I agree with you. I guess with some of the new additions around him, the big one being Klay Thompson, the scoring should lessen for Luka, but I do think the assist numbers will go way up because of that. I guess my addition, my contribution, and I agree with you. I think Luka Doncic is going to win MVP. It just comes down to voter fatigue because we know the awards are picked by the broadcasters and the sports writers over in America and Canada. Nikola Jokic has won 3 of the last 4 MVP awards. There's no way they're going to give him another award. I think they're a little bit tired of seeing the same guy win the MVP award over and over again. So why not give it to someone new? And that pretty much narrows it down to guys like Luka, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Anthony Edwards. But I agree with you. I think Luka is going to take out this year's MVP award. Moving on to the Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert he won it last year. He is actually tied with Ben Wallace and Dikembe Mutombo for most DPOY awards with 4. If he wins this year, it will be a record-breaking 5th award. Ravi, are you picking Rudy Gobert, or do you have someone else in mind who's your pick?
It's unfortunately second place last year due to some technicalities. I'm going to go with Wemby solely because he averaged 3.6 blocks last year, and I'm hoping that he's going to go on this upward trajectory. The way that he's developed his game over the last season, some great flashes on the preseason as well. I think 4.5 blocks is what I'm expecting him to do. It's a large number, but overreacting like he said. So.
Wowie.
Mm.
4.5 is a lot because
Yeah.
I was contemplating whether I thought Wemby would actually average 4. We'll find out later on if I've predicted that. I do think Wemby's a really good defender coming into a second year. The thing with the DPOY award is that they take into account team defensive rating, which unfortunately doesn't fall into Wemby's favor. The Spurs were 21st last season in Defensive Player of the Year or defensive rating. So when you add guys like Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes, some veterans there, yes, that helps a little bit. You draft a guy like Stephon Castle, who's a great defender in his own right. I don't know if that's enough to elevate the Spurs to a top defensive team. And unfortunately, we have to take that into account. So taking that into account, I've actually gone with Chet Holmgren of the Thunder because I think the Thunder are going to be such a really good defense this year. They dropped Josh Giddey. They added Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein. Their defense should be a top 5 defense, if not the best defense in the league. And I think they'll usually give the award to the guy who's the rim protector and who's guarding the paint, which is Chet Holmgren. So for me, I'm going to go Chet. I think Chet gets the win over Wemby in this one. So I mean, I guess any thoughts on
I
that?
mean, no, man, you're definitely right in terms of how they add a lot of defense around, especially adding a guy like Caruso. I think top five in steals per game last season. Yeah, I think yeah. For me, it was more being hopeful and, like you said, overreacting. Right, so that's why I went with the Wemby pick. But when I think about it realistically, you probably sound a lot better. But I'm still going to stick to my guns. With Wemby hoping with a 4.5 blocks.
Well, yeah, if I had my choice, I would have gone with
Mm,
Wemby. Like Wemby's just such a phenomenal player. I mean, I'm excited to see if he's going to get 4.5 blocks this
mm,
upcoming season. But I mean, I guess on the Thunder, Chet might not even be the best defensive player on that team. There's so many good defensive players: Caruso, Hartenstein, Shea Gilgeous
mm.
Alexander, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, like all great defenders. But yeah, usually in the great defensive team, they give it to the big man in that case.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll see what happens there. Rookie of the year, interesting draft class that's been brought in. Probably not highly acclaimed as we've seen in recent years. But which of the rookies do you think is going to stand out this season and claim Rookie of the Year?
I think it's Zach Edey, especially with the departure of Stephen Adams, and he will start for this team, and he has a set role. And I really like the fact that he looked quite good in preseason, in terms of what he was able to produce alongside Job. And he moves really well for a 7'4", height, tall player. What I'm thinking what he might be able to do is be a double double guy. That'll be 12 and 10. Again, there's a lot of scorers on that team, but I do expect him to be a double double guy. Maybe get about 2.5 blocks on average for the season. What do you think?
100% agree. I think
Yeah.
it's Zach Edey as well.
Mm.
Maybe mainly because I think Edey is in the best situation for a rookie. Like you said, he's going to get those minutes that Steven Adams left behind. You brought up him as a mobile defender. I think at the college level, he was quite mobile for his size. They might be a bit trickier at the NBA level, but I think being in Memphis helps hide those weaknesses because he's got Jaren Jackson playing next to him. He's also got Marcus Smart there as well to help him out on defense. Two former defensive player of the years candidates there. And in terms of, I mean, Zach Edey is not a great shooter, but he doesn't need to be when you've got Desmond Bain there and Jaren Jackson's a stretch four as well. So it's the best situation for Zach Edey to be in. So I agree with you. I think Zach Edey's going to win a Rookie of the Year. Most improved. Now this is an award that I have a bit. I've got something. I got a bit of. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this award, but we'll discuss that later on. But who's your pick for most improved player of the year?
I've gone for a bit of a wild card here. I've gone Jalen Green, from the Houston Rockets. He showed a lot of great flashes last season. The reason I've chosen him is that his contract's on the line. He didn't get exactly what he wanted, and he needs to add value to him just to get that contract earlier or be a valuable asset for another team or a contender, to choose him, and put him in a winning situation. He's got great wingspan. He's got great athleticism. We just need to see that consistently. And I think, with the bag on the line, I think he'll push through. Last season, he went 25-4. This season, I'm expecting him to go 25, 7-5. So big outputs in all three categories to really push him as the most improved. Who have you chosen?
I've gone with Evan Mobley of the
Mm.
Cleveland Cavaliers. I think we know how good he is defensively. He was a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year a couple of seasons ago, but offensively is where I'm hoping to see him take that next step. And I'm hoping that with Kenny Atkinson coming in as the Cavs' new coach, that he can unlock that potential with Evan Mobley. Last season, Mobley averaged 15.7 points, 9.4 rebounds, 3.2 assists, 1.4 blocks. But I guess what's gave me a bit of confidence about Mobley this season is that his very last game last season, which was Game 5 against the Celtics in the Eastern Conference semis, he finished with 33 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 blocks. Now, one game is a terrible sample size, but I'm hoping that that's sort of the flashes that we can that game showed the flashes that we could see with Evan Mobley. So I'm hoping Mobley can sort of carry that over into the season and hopefully elevate and help Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs out. So yeah, I've gone with Evan Mobley there.
Yeah, I mean that was
Moving
going to be my
on.
second pick. It was either one of those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Sixth Man of the Year award. This was probably one of the harder awards to choose from, just because we don't know quite yet what the starting lineups for certain sides look like. But who's your best player off the bench this season?
I've gone for Nas Reed. So that's who we've gone for. I think he is poised to win it back to back, just solely based on what we saw last season and how much of a step up he had in terms of what his production was for the Timberwolves. With Cat departing and Julius Randle coming into the team, I think for the first even start of the season, just allowing Julius Randle to kind of fit in, there'll be a lot of opportunity for Nasri to show what he can do. We know he's a talented guy. Put up 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 assist, I think, last season. But I don't expect a massive improvement from him compared to what he did. But still being able to contribute the sixth man and be that spark and be that big energy guy that what he was. Especially, I know this is just regular season awards, but he showed what he can do in the playoffs as well, just to step up as a contributor on a winning side.
I've gone with someone who, this might be a little bit out of left field, but you could probably see where I'm coming from with this one. I've gone with Miles McBride of the Knicks, the New York Knicks, because that cat after that cat trade, that starting five with the Knicks is looking really good. But then you look at that bench and it's like, who is going to step up on that bench? And I think Miles McBride is the best candidate to take the leap and help the Knicks out. Last season, he averaged 8.3 points. If he can boost that up to about 11 or 12, I mean, that's enough to contribute to winning sixth man of the year. There's some weird little criteria, or not criteria, but I guess some trends that I've seen with this award, and that usually to win this award, you have to average 18 plus points off the bench, or at least be part of a team that's won at least 49 games. So, I mean, McBride's not going to average 18 plus. It would be a shock to me if he does, but he's definitely going to be part of the Knicks who will win at least 50 this season, definitely. So, yeah, Miles McBride, that's a bit of a left field one, isn't it? So,
Hey,
we'll see.
it's
Yeah,
all right, man. You got to keep it spicy with like we mentioned, hot, cold, and lukewarm takes off the bench. So got to keep it
yeah.
interesting.
I think that goes into the lukewarm category, that one. So we'll see how that plays out. And final big award, Coach of the Year. This was another tough one for me to pick, but for you, who are you going with?
I'm following on the Miles McBride kind of trajectory. I'm going with the Knicks and Tim Thibodeau. I'm hoping they'd be a 60-win team, especially with the addition of Cat. Now, that's a big call to make, but they were 50-32 last season. And Tibbs did spend a considerable amount of time with Cat, so he knows his game, knows what he can do and what he can bring to that lineup. And someone like Mikal Bridges, who falls right up Tibbs' alley in terms of play, just a solid Iron Man. Plays a majority of the season. I think the last 3 seasons he's barely taken any time off in terms of the regular season. So I think Thibodeau is going to be able to push his team into the finals, especially with his experience playing with the biggest edition of the offseason.
I'm surprised you've gone with Tim Thibodeau and not Tom Thibodeau,
Oh, Tom.
Ravi. No, it's all good. I guess for
Coach
me,
Tibbs is what we call
hey,
him.
Coach Tibbs. We all know him as Tibbs. That's all good. This was tricky because, again, with me and my whole thing with trends, I saw that since 2010, every Coach of the Year award winner has led a top 4 seed. So that pretty much narrows it down to 8 teams, top 4 in the West, top 4 in the East. So if you're in that category, you're probably a favorite. So Tibbs is definitely in that category. I've gone with Jason Kidd of the Dallas Mavericks. I think the Mavs will go from a 5th seed last season to maybe a 2nd or 3rd. I think they're up there. They can compete with the Thunder. But honestly, it could go to anyone. Like it's not there's no clear cut candidates for me. It's really just because I think the Mavs can improve from 5th to 2nd and improve their win count from 57 wins to no, they were 50 last season, so maybe to about 57, 58 wins this season. So, but honestly, I couldn't really pick one. I mean, could someone like Missoula at the Celtics or Mark Daigneault at OKC win Coach of the Year? I mean, I don't know. Probably because, I mean, how can they improve from what they did last season, right? So that's probably my argument for not choosing those guys. Yeah, I guess any final thoughts from you before we move on to the next segment?
No, I mean pretty obvious in terms of like Joe Mazzulla or the OKC coach. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. um, so I think, the team's already stellar as they are, and I don't know how much improvement they can make. Unless they push for a 70+ win team, that's the only reason that I can see them going through. But yeah, I think solid pick from you as well in terms of Jason Kidd. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our shot clock segment. So this is a new segment that we're introducing into the series, where we each speak about a hot topic, or we do a hot take in about 24 seconds, and we have a bit of a discussion around how we came to that hot take and understand the reasoning behind it. So this episode, Eli's going to do his hot take, and I'll pass on to Eli. So hearing it's about the most improved player award.
Yeah, I feel like I need to be hyped into this, so I might need you to count me down for this one rather than I'll get stuck in.
All right. So shot clock's on now. We got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Cool. There goes the inbound. Victor Wembanyama is the betting odds favorite for most improved player of the year. Why? Because we know he's a generational talent. We know he's going to improve. He was the first overall pick. He got the most hype out of a prospect since Zion Williamson came into the league. I miss when the most improved player was about a player who came out of left field to improve. Pascal Siakam, CJ McCollum, Ryan freaking Anderson. Come on, show some love for Ryan Anderson. For me, the most improved player of the year award has lost its value, and I don't know how long I've made my shot, and I'm pretty sure I've splashed in 24 seconds. So I guess that's my argument. I feel like the most improved player of the award's sort of predictable now, or it's at least going to guys who make make a certain jump. Essentially, if you're going from non-all-star to all-star, that's pretty much the criteria that you need to win MIP. Whereas in years past, it was guys who were coming off the bench who established themselves as a strong starter. And that's why I rattled those names out, like Pascal. Although Pascal was probably in all-star conversations that year he did win MIP. CJ McCollum, Ryan Anderson, but even before that, guys like Aaron Brooks and Zach Randolph, Gilbert Arenas, those were guys who won MIP but weren't all-stars or all-NBA players during the 2000s. You know, I sort of miss those days. I think that, to me, that's the spirit of the award of MIP. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that's such a valid point, because most improved should be who got most improved, not necessarily popularity, because I think that's where the NBA is trending like these days. Right? When you think about the likes of Agent Zero winning the award back in the day, social media wasn't a thing now because it's so heavily influenced by social media. So that has an element to play, but it should come back to who has taken the biggest leap throughout the regular season from the previous season.
Yeah, I guess my final point, and I guess the argument against what I've just said, is that the bar has been raised high with this award because the NBA, the talents in the league is so good now. Whereas like back in the day, it was like guys who were considered bench players for the most part. Now we've got guys where everyone could be an all-star essentially. So I think the bar has sort of been raised with the MIP award. So I guess that's an argument that goes against what I've said. But come on, if Ryan Anderson could hear who the betting odds favorite was this year, he'd be rolling in his grave. Even though he's not dead, he's still alive. Shout out Ryan Anderson.
Well, mate. Yeah. Shout out to Ryan Anderson, the hell of a 3-point shooter. Very underrated career.
Even just I was going through the list when I was prepping this, and like literally, if you get a chance to, like the guys in the 80s and 90s, I doubt you would have heard of most of the guys. Now in the last decade or so, it's like guys we all know, like Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, Markkanen, Ja Morant. Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting. But anyway, thanks for giving me the 24 seconds to get that off my chest. We'll move on into the All-NBA teams. Yeah. So we've picked our players for the first, second, and third All-NBA teams. I think they've changed the criteria so that it's regardless of position. So it used to be about having 2 backcourt and 3 frontcourt, but now they're a little bit fluid now about who can make those teams. But we'll start with Well, should we start with the first or should we start with the third and work our way up? Your call, Raven.
Yeah, I think we'll go third and all the way up because then we can kind
Okay.
of figure out who's who because we know who's who in the pond anyway.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so we'll start with the third All NBA team. Rav, I'm gonna let you dish out your 5 guys for the third All NBA team.
Yeah, so I've gone for primarily point guards in this all point shooting guards. One of them is a 4-position player. So I've gone for Curry, LeBron, Tyrese Maxey, Tyrese Halliburton, and Devin Booker as my All NBA third team.
Okay, interesting. I've gone Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, Paul George, Anthony Davis, Victor Wembanyama. So I think Wemby will makes it into the third All NBA team. That's probably the one guy that stands out of that list. Second All NBA team. Who have you got?
I've gone Ant, Sabonis, Jalen Brunson, and Jalen Brown, and AD.
Okay. Yep. I've gone Brunson, Ant, KD, Bam Adebayo, Joel Embiid. So I'm trying to do process of elimination. I feel like we have similar players for first All NBA team, but I will let you do the honors of naming your first All NBA team.
Yeah, so it's these guys got next unanimous MVP, Luca, at the starting spot. SGA, I've got Giannis, Tatum, and Jokic as my starting 5 for the all the first team.
5 from 5. I've got the same. Look at that, great minds think alike. How about that, Rav?
Love it.
I guess, did you, like, when you were putting this list together, were there any players you left out that could have made the cut or you were considering?
Yeah, Bam definitely. I think Bam was like very close, but I do have high expectations for the likes of Maxi, especially with the addition of PG in the rotation. Joel Embiid health is an issue because I think 62 games comes into play. I had some questions about AD as well in terms of his pick, but I was either weighing up Joel or Anthony Davis and decided to go with AD just because he had a very healthy season last season. I'm hoping that he can carry that on. Yeah, any of the picks that I chose were interesting. Like, I know Halliburton wasn't probably you weren't expecting.
Yeah, yeah, Hallie was close because I do like Halliburton as a player. I just think I've put Booker and KD on those All NBA teams just because I think the Suns are going to have a big year this season. You mentioned Maxey. I don't know if he's All NBA just because you've got PG and Embiid in there. So I've put PG and Embiid into those squads, but not Maxey just because I think Maxey will just miss out. I don't know if you noticed, but I've left Steph Curry and LeBron out of my All NBA teams, which is a big call for me. Yeah, it's huge. Like, I can hear the LeBron fans just crying. I just think that it's more so I think there are players who are going to be better than those two this season rather than a decline. Really, I think like Curry, there's going to be a lot asked of him this season. He's older, the body's going to start breaking down. Still don't know who's going to be the second best player on that Warriors team. Like, that's a lot of pressure for Curry to handle, and I don't know if he handles that this season. LeBron, in a similar way, I mean, he's got AD to support him, but I just don't see LeBron just having a big season. I just think other players, like I think Wemby's going to take a huge leap. I think AD's going to have probably a better season than LeBron, or I guess in terms of how he contributes to the team. But yeah, that's sort of I guess that's my hotter take for the day, is that Steph and LeBron aren't in my All NBA teams. So yeah, apologies to all the Steph and LeBron fans out there.
Yeah, I think you've managed to piss off the 2 biggest fan bases in the NBA. So kudos to you, Eli.
Hey, someone needs to stir the pot a little bit around here. Cool. So we've gone from All NBA. Let's go to All Stars as well. I guess, yeah, All Stars, we'll go straight into it. Eastern Conference and Western Conference, we've picked 12 players, I believe, for each conference. Let's start with the East. Ravi, take it away.
Yeah, so I've gone Brunson, Halliburton, Embiid, Giannis, Tatum, Brown, Paolo Banchero, Donovan Mitchell, Bam, Trae Young, Pascal Siakam, and I've gone for Max again. I really like Maxi's game, so I think there's a bit of personal bias in there, choosing him as an all-star. Now, who you've got for your 12?
I've gone Brunson, Halliburton, Cade Cunningham, Donovan Mitchell, Paolo Banchero, Paul George, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Giannis, Bam Adebayo, Joel Embiid, and Evan Mobley, which probably supports my pick for Mobley as the most improved player. So I guess the big additions there for me were Mobley and Cunningham. I'm a big fan of Cunningham, and I'm hoping that he can pretty much carry Detroit in some way this season to a point where he's named as an All-Star. So yeah, I mean, I guess the Western Conference. Who are your 12 for that squad?
Again, I've gone Curry, LeBron, just because I think there's one more season left in the tank for each of these guys to perform at an All Star level. KD, same story there. Booker, and then she's gone for the younger guns really. Booker and Wemby, AD, Jokic, Ja, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luca, and Zion as my last pick.
I like the Zion pick, even though I haven't picked him in my Western Conference. Sorry, I'm hoping the Steph and LeBron fans can come back because I've picked Steph and LeBron in my All-Star team. So yeah, rejoice everyone. So I've gone Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Steph Curry, Ja Morant, Devin Booker, Ant Edwards, Luka Doncic, Jalen Williams is my big one. I think for OKC, that's sort of my big addition for the West. KD, AD, Wemby, and Jokic. So there's a few, yeah. I guess a
I
few
mean, two differences,
bolters.
right? It's just Morant and Jalen Williams probably comes in for what, Zion and Ant?
I've got Ant.
You've got Ant. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I guess yeah, I've got Jar as well. So it'd be Jalen Williams is the biggest candidate. So if he can take that next step up from what he did, that'd be fantastic to see. Like as such a young player thriving in the NBA.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm hoping for as well. I mean, we know how good SGA is. I've already asked Chet Holmgren to take a big leap defensively so he can win Defensive Player of the Year. So hopefully Jalen Williams can keep his end of the bargain and take the leap and make the All-Star level as well. Let's move on to league leaders, statistical leaders. So we've gone with the big five here, which is points, assists, rebounds, steals, and blocks. We're going to go back and forth here as to who we think are going to be the statistical leaders in that category. Points. Let's start with points. Ravi, who is going to lead the league in scoring?
I've gone for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think he's going to go 32 points a game. Just allowing, I think he's just going to thrive, keep getting better and better. Been a huge fan of him since he was at the Clippers, and we saw what he was able to do and the massive leaps and bounds that he took. Starting off at the Thunder. I'm backing him to go 32 points a game and lead the league in the points. How about you?
Cool. I've gone Luka Doncic because even though I do think his scoring is going to go down, I think his scoring is still going to be high enough to lead the league in scoring. I think he's going to average 30.2, which is down from 33.9, what he had last season. So, yep, that's my pick for scoring. Assists, who's leading the league there?
I've gone Luca here. I've gone him going with 11 assists, like I mentioned when we had the MVP conversation. I think it's going to open up the floor with the additions that they made during the offseason.
I initially had Luka because I thought he could average 30 and 10 this season. But instead, I've switched to Tyrese Halliburton just because I love the way their offense is and that play style over in Indiana. And we saw flashes last season. I mean, Halliburton did lead the league in assists last season with 10.9. I think he's going to lift that up to about 11.4 this season. So, yeah, I'm looking. So, hopefully, Tyrese goes back to back. Rebounds, who's your guy there?
I've got AD. If he can maintain his health over the stretch of the season, then I think he's going to average 14 boards, especially with a couple of shooters around him. He's more opportunities to grab some boards as well.
I've gone with Domantas Sabonis. I think he goes back to back again with the rebounding. He led last year with 13.7. I think he goes 13.1 this season. So, yeah, I think Sabonis will win the rebounding title. Steals, who have you got there?
I've got SGA for 2, and that's one of the biggest reasons is the addition of Alex Caruso, who will be taking on the toughest assignments, allowing SGA, I think he was 1.5 last season, or 1.2. I think he'll be able to take a big step up, guarding not the first option, and then being able to put his hands in the baskets.
I've actually gone DeJounte Murray of the Pelicans. I think he's going to get 2.1 assists, 2.1 steals this season. I just think being at the Pelicans, there's less focus on him scoring because he's got guys like Zion and Ingram and McCollum around him, so he can focus more on his defensive ability, which is he's really strong at. And I think he just goes back to that really good all defensive type of player. So 2.1 steals is my pick for DeJounte. And finally, blocks. I think we already know where we're going here, but I'll let you.
Yeah, I've gone Wemby in with my outrageous take of 4.5 blocks a game.
That 4.5 would be wild. And if I was a fantasy player listening to that, I would be drafting Wemby number 1 overall if I heard that. So I hope someone takes the bait in our fantasy league.
Yeah.
I agree. I think I've gone Wemby. I think he just falls under 4. So I've gone 3.9 for the blocks. But I think, Wemby's just insane. An absolute unicorn that guy is. Cool. So finally, we're just going to finish things off with our little quick fire segment. So you've got 60 seconds to sort of go back and forth with our questions. We've got a little bit of a twist with this one because it is the awards predictions. But yeah, we're just going to start the time and get stuck into it. So I'll count us down. 3, 2, 1. Ravi, who is your all NBA defensive team?
So I've gone for Wemby, Gobert, Derek White, AD, and Bam. So it's just a lot of tall blokes surrounded by Derek White because of the positionless options they've gone for.
That is some length.
Yeah. Who's the all rookie team?
Well, I'm going to rattle these out slowly because I know we've got time on the quick fire. Zach Edey, Reed Shepherd, Stephon Castle, Martus Buzelis, Alex Sarr with the Wizards. And our Wizards mate is going to be happy that I absolutely stoked that I've mentioned the Washington Wizards there. So, yeah, that's pretty much our final picks there. Rav, any final thoughts from you before we conclude this episode?
No, some wild takes in there from the both of us. And, looking forward to them coming to fruition.
That's what this podcast is about. Hot, warm, cold takes off the bench. That's what we're all about. And as always, Rav, thanks for joining me on this episode. Next time, we're going to do our predictions for the regular season. So where we think teams are going to fit from, going to sit from 1 to 15 in both the East and the West, and also put together our little playoff brackets and ultimately decide who we think is going to be the NBA champion. But until then, we got next and Matiwa.